All right. All right, we're ready. Okay. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Pre-Snap Read the podcast. I'm proudly presented by Capital QBs. I'm your host, Coach Ron Raymond, and tonight we have a football legend gracing our virtual stage. It's an absolute honor to introduce a true pioneer of the game, a strategic genius, a coach and luminary who has reshaped the landscape of football. His innovation have left an everlasting mark on the sport, and his dedication to developing quarterbacks is unparalleled. I'm thrilled to welcome Coach Hal Mumme to tonight's podcast. Coach Mumme's journey through the world of football has been nothing short of remarkable. From his groundbreaking work with the air raid offense to his impactful coaching stints, his influence knows no bounds. Tonight, we embark on a football odyssey exploring the depths of offensive brilliance, strategic genius, and the art of quarterback development with none other than Coach Hal Mumme. Whether you're seeking to unlock new strategies, a quarterback striving for precision, or a devoted, hungry fan for insider knowledge, this episode promises a wealth of insight. So grab your playbooks, prepare your questions, and get ready for an unforgettable evening. Without further ado, let's extend a warm welcome to Coach Hal Mumme and launch the Pre-Snap Read podcast into the end zone. Good evening, Coach.
Ron, I need to hire you to introduce me every single time.
There you go.
That's the best I've ever had. I'm not sure I can live up to the introduction at this point.
You deserve it, Coach. You know what? With your career that you've had, it's I've been obviously a lot of people has been following you, and you're truly, to me, one of the great guys in the industry. And it's just an honor for you to be on the podcast. In fact, people ask me all the time. They say, how did you meet Hal Mumme? Like, how did you get him to come to, to get him on the podcast? I say, you know what? I think it was 2016 you came up here in Canada.
Yeah.
Was it 2015, 2016?
Yeah, Jacqueline came with me, my wife, and we really had a great time. You were such a gracious host, and everything was great except we got thrown out of the Prime Minister's mansion over there.
Everybody's getting thrown out these days. Everybody's getting thrown out these days.
He was very ungracious. He had a very ungracious recording that said, "Get off of our lawn."
Oh yeah, that's right. Hey, that was probably the last time you wore a winter jacket too.
Yeah, it's it was a bit nippy up there at that point.
And it's a small world, right? So we did it with Canada Football Chat, Lee Barrett, and I said to Lee, I said, man, he's a coach from he's from Texas and down south. And I say he's coming up here, and we'll see. Like we were sure if everybody knew the air raid back, it was like 2016, and there you go. We walk into the room, and there's a guy. Hey, Mark Nelson, how you doing? It's like, here we go. I said, there we go. That's the football world, right? You turn a corner and you fall.
Small fraternity.
Yeah, and did you coach his son or something like that?
I did. Mark, his son was a great tight end and even better deep snapper. Played in the NFL for a good while.
Oh, wow. All right, Coach. Hey, you know what? Again, thanks for coming on the podcast. And the goal of this podcast is, like always for me, is to really help develop the complete quarterback. Not just the quarterbacks today who grow up and they want to play quarterback. To me, it's about teaching them the understanding of the mental side of the game, the physical side, and it's not just throwing, right? Everybody who comes to my quarterback camps or school, training schools, all they want to do is throw, and I was like, that's not quarterbacking. So we'll get into that a little bit today.
Yeah, no, you got the right idea, Ron. There's a lot to it besides throwing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and we had a one of my friends here on the other night, Coach Jamie Breezy. He was at the conference as well. You might have remembered Coach Breezy. He was on Wednesday night, and he talked about quarterbacks as well. And we're on the same page of helping these young guys, how to deal with pressure. And we'll get into that just a little bit later on. All right, Coach. Obviously, on the December 22nd, 2022, the football fraternity and a good friend of yours, we were just all in shock what happened to Mike Leach. And I know you were very close with Mike. And having the air raid Godfather on and to start this podcast, I thought we'd do a little bit of tribute to Mike Leach. I went through some of his books, and there was 3 chapters dedicated to you. And the one thing that I'm really big on is I always say blood is thicker than water. and when you're coaching with your friends, and you seem to me the guy who loves to give guys opportunities. And when your young coaches trying to get into the football industry, everybody's looking for that break. And to me, you just seem like the guy that was just there to give guys break, and you enjoyed it. And am I wrong thinking that you gave Mike his break when he first started?
He was a delight to be with. He ended up being more like my little brother than anything else. And we could not talk for a month and then pick up the same conversation, you know. And no, he was just a delight to be around, and we miss him dearly. Mike was a brilliant guy. He was going to make it whether I helped him or not. But he loved our offense. He loved the way we did things. He's the one gave it the name Air Raid, and it was just fun to be around him. And 10 years we coached together, recruited together, and went and drove to obscure places to anybody that was throwing the football to find out how to stack a cornerback or how to do various things in the passing game. And if somebody was doing something good, we were going to go find out what they were doing and how they were doing it. And so it really added to the offense. And, after about 5 or 6 years of that, we pretty much had perfected what we do and built our package out. And it just turned out to be a great collaboration between he and I.
When I look at the history between you and Mike, it all started at Iowa Wesleyan. And when you guys got there, they were running the single wing offense. And, some of the things that Mike wrote in the book saying, they didn't think that offense. Well, I don't know if it was at Valdosta. They didn't think that offense would work, or they thought it was gimmicky. No. But I'll stick to Iowa Wesleyan. I'm going to go through Iowa Wesleyan, Valdosta State, and then we'll get to Kentucky. But okay. The story with you and Mike going to Dickey's Prairie Home and the Iris. He says that in the restaurant at Ira Restaurant, they got mad at you for you drawing on their napkins when you guys were drawing plays.
Well, they're a bit tight with the money there at Dickey's, and they wanted you to use the napkins for what they were intended for instead of drawing up plays. And we would go in there almost every morning, and we'd park our cars outside and leave them running, which is no stranger to what you guys face up there in Canada. But it's extremely cold, and all the city fathers would meet there, the mayor and the school district superintendent and the athletic director, and so we found out that was the place where the decisions were made in town. So we made it a point to go there every morning and drink coffee. And nearly every morning at some point, there was going to be okay, I got an idea. Let me show it to you. Or he'd do the same for me. And then that's when they would get mad at us about the napkins.
Yeah. And you know what? I don't know what it is with drawing plays. We did it, remember, on the way back going to the airport, we're drawing plays in the car, driving. You said, here's what I would do in Canadian football with that extra player. But staying with Iowa Wesleyan, Mike says in the book that you guys, and this is where the Canadian angle of the CFL is going to come into play here, you guys brought the tunnel screen from a now defunct CFL team, the Sacramento Surge. You remember that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, we got it from a guy named Carl. I can't remember his last name. I'll think of it in a second. But anyway, he played at Vanderbilt, and then he had played for the Surge, and he happened to live in Valdosta, and ended up doing our radio for us as the color commentator on our radio games, and he's the one that I had seen it on TV when they had the CFL in America for about a year or two. And we loved watching those games, and we saw Carl running that screen. And so we got him to draw it up for us, and we put it in. It was an immediate success.
Nice. And and as long as they didn't ruin the anthem like they did in Las Vegas, they sound the Canadian anthem like it was Old Christmas Tree. I don't know if you remember that.
There were some things about Canada that you just can't get right in Birmingham, Alabama, or Las Vegas.
Matt Dunnigan, the quarterback of the Birmingham team. Matt Dunnigan was a really good quarterback in the CFL. He was. Yeah. Staying with Iowa Wesleyan, Hal brought Dustin DeWald from Euro High School that used to coach, right? And that was a good way to start at Iowa.
Well, it was. He had been my quarterback the first year I was at Coppers Cove, and he had a record-setting senior season. And then he went to Stephen F. Austin on a scholarship, but he had gotten unhappy and gotten married and just dropped out. And when I got the job at Iowa Wesleyan, he came by. He'd been out of it for about a year or so, and he'd been playing golf at another school. And he came by the office to congratulate me. And I said, well, we're NAIA. You'd have eligibility. You'd have 3 years of eligibility. Why don't you come up to Iowa? So he moved his wife, Tiffany, up there. Tiffany worked in our office along with Mike's wife, Sharon. And they were our administrative assistants for a few years. And Dustin had a terrific career. We're still really good friends.
That's awesome. Hey, I'm the same way with all the quarterbacks. You always remember the guys, the relationships, right? That's the one thing that I value, even with the player relationship, because recruiting is such a oh man, I won't even get into the NIL thing today because I want to keep this on a good beat. But yeah, relationships to me are like not with just coaches, even players. You go back, and I'm sure you've been invited to many weddings of some of your past players.
Yeah, you really develop all those things, and they become part of the family in a lot of cases.
Absolutely. And then and here the one thing that Mike did at Iowa Wesleyan is that he put an ad in USA Today, and I got a feeling that you got to your desk some days and this is what Mike did. Did you get a lot of those?
Oh yeah, he had one part of Mike's he had a broad job description at Iowa Wesleyan. He was in charge of equipment, video, the offensive line, and eventually became the offensive coordinator. And then he also had to be the SID for football, which meant he had to write up the game articles. And then he also taught 2 business law classes at night. So he had for $12,000 a year, he was a real plus for Iowa Wesleyan.
Oh yeah, hey, but you know what? When you first start, right? These are you have so many hats.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It's just yeah. So one thing though, Mike did say in his book that he loved, and I can see too, like he loved the recruiting in Florida, Key West. Something about Jimmy Buffett songs, right?
Yeah, well, we both were huge Jimmy Buffett fans. So when we'd take these road trips, we'd pop in a Buffett tape or cassette or whatever, and off we went, listening to Buffett and describing, analyzing each song and each line, and really having a grand old time talking about Jimmy Buffett. So eventually, I told Mike that we needed to make a road trip to Florida and that he should find somebody to recruit in Florida. And so he found a kicker in Key West so that we could go to Key West for the first time. And we did. And Mike was great. We went to Captain Tony's right off. And
is that a restaurant or something?
No, it's a famous bar down there.
Oh, okay.
And Captain Tony Terracino was the mayor of Key West. And he was like this 80-year-old guy who had like 6 wives and about a dozen kids, and had been a pirate and a smuggler and all kinds of stuff and all kinds of adventures. And Buffett wrote the song "Last Mango in Paris" about Tony Terracino.
Oh, really?
So we got there fairly late that night because it's a long haul from Orlando to Key West, and we went there first off, and we're sitting on the bar stools there, and I got tired, and I said, I'm going to bed. And it was about 1 a.m, and so I get up and go to bed. And then the next morning, or the next afternoon, or rather, when we woke up, we're sitting there eating lunch, and Mike goes, "You're going to hate me." And I go, "Why am I going to hate you?" And he goes, "Because you know who sat down on your bar stool after you left?" And I go, "No, it's Captain Tony."
Oh,
he
no.
said he told me the whole story about how Buffett wrote "Last Mango in Paris" about him and his whole deal. And he said it was awesome. And then, later on life, Mike actually, at Captain Tony's, they put you, if you're famous down there, they put your name on a bar stool, like
nice.
JFK's on a bar stool, and
wow.
All kinds of famous people. But Mike got a bar stool eventually.
Yeah, and I can see why you love, like when I called you last week, I was at Hollywood Beach, Margaritaville, and me and my wife, she's retired now, and we've been there the last 3 years in a row. And I said, you know what? I just love this place. I don't know what it is with down in that area. it's just you feel just so relaxing at home, and just people chill, and there's it must be the ocean. I don't know. It's just there's a great feeling down there, right?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's
Well, like Jimmy said, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. All
yeah,
right.
that's right.
So after Valdosta State, well, after Iowa Wesleyan, you went to Valdosta State, where the last year at Iowa Wesleyan, you won 10 games. And now you're in year one at Wintersville, they call
Yeah.
Valdosta State. And people in the coffee shop are coming to you guys and say, hey, something about, I hope you guys do well, but you're going to have to run the ball in the middle here, right? So they were telling you guys how to run the offense down there, so, in the coffee shops. But yeah, you got new guys, the offense, and nobody probably heard of you guys. How was Valdosta State?
Well, it was a great place, and in fact, Mike just got put in their Hall of Fame last week. It was really a great honor. But when we first got there, it's the deep South. It's Georgia, and I'm from Texas. Mike's from Wyoming. We've been coaching in Iowa. We weren't exactly welcomed with open arms. And then they found out we wanted to throw the ball 50 times a game, and they were pretty determined to talk us out of it. And it was there. This is in the days when Georgia had Vince Dooley coaching them. Their idea of changing the offense up was to run toss sweep to the left. And so when we first got there was a lot of naysayers that you can never run offense like this in the South. This is the Gulf South Conference is the miniature SEC. It's the Division II SEC, and you're going to get killed doing this, and you're not going to last here. And there was just all kinds of pejoratives that they were putting on us that we had to endure for about a year until they actually saw that it was going to work.
And but that offense sorry, coach, is just right now there's people talk to me in the screen that they can't see the screen, so I'm just bear me with 1 second so I can just put this.
Sure.
They can see it on YouTube, but I just want to put it live on the website, so this way people are waiting to
Sure.
get too upset. So just bear with me 1 second, and we'll get right back to that
Sure.
Valdosta. All right, so let me just edit this. This way it gives you a break to get a refresher.
I'm gonna get a little refreshment right here while you're doing that.
Okay. Let me see if this works. All right, there we go. Okay, sorry about that. It's just when you're a one-man show and you're flipping, I feel like I'm working at Iowa Whistling there with 10 jobs here.
Yeah, there you go. You got to do it all.
Okay, so there we go. All right,
we're back. Be versatile.
Yeah, and the thing is, they thought it was a gimmicky offense, right?
So we don't die on it too. Yeah. Now, what was the question?
Yeah, so they thought it was like a gimmicky offense.
Yeah, they didn't think it'd work. And nobody can throw the ball 50 times a game. They didn't want to throw the ball 10 times a game. So what we were talking about doing was sacrilegious. And I think they thought we were devil worshipers or something coming down
there. and the thing is, when you got that job at Valdosta State, you didn't even really apply for that job, right? Like you just.
I'll tell you, Mike is the reason I got the job. When we were at Iowa Wesleyan, I used to send Mike to Florida to recruit, and he loved going down there and doing it. And he would drive down past Valdosta is only 20 minutes from the Florida line, and he would drive right past Valdosta. So a few times he stopped off to look and see what the campus looked like. And so when the job came open, he came into my office and he said, "You should apply for Valdosta State." And I said, that'd be a waste of a stamp, probably, because they're going to hire somebody from Iowa and Valdosta, Georgia. They're provincial. They're going to hire somebody from Georgia, like they did the last time. And so he turned around, walked out, came back after lunch, and he says, "Coach, at Valdosta State, they have an outdoor swimming pool right next to the coach's office, and all the co-eds sunbathe there every day." And I said, if it means that much to you, go in here and have Sharon put a resume in the mail. I said, I'll do it. But I just forgot about it. It was such a small thing. I just didn't even remember. So then about maybe a month later, I'm at home and I get this phone call. And this lady on the other end of the line says, "Is this Coach Mumme?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She goes, "Well, I'd like to be your realtor here at Valdosta. And I said, what are you talking about?
Yeah, you
And
thought it
she
was a
goes,
crank
well,
call?
you're a finalist for the job here. I'd like to be your realtor.
Oh, wow.
That's how I found out I was in the hunt.
Oh, yeah, the
Well,
insiders, right?
yeah. Well, then after the whole first season went by, obviously we got the job, went down there, but the whole first season goes by, and Herb Reinhardt, who is retiring this year as AD down there, he's been AD all these years, does done a fantastic job. But he and his wife Linda had a Christmas party every year for the staff. So we're sitting over there at the Christmas party after the first season, and Linda comes over and sits down next to me on the couch, and she says, I knew you were going to get this job all along. And I said, well, how'd you know that, Linda? She points to a VHS tape on her TV stand, and it says Iowa Wesleyan touchdown passes. And Mike had a highlight film made of all 48 touchdown passes from that season, 1991 season at Wesleyan. And we'd been using it to fundraise with boosters and stuff. And so when he put that resume in the mail, he stuck that videotape in there with it. And she said, every night while they were making the selection for the coach, Herb Reinhardt, her husband, the AD, would come home and he'd put that tape in and he'd make her watch it. And he'd run it back and forth and go, I can sell tickets to this. We can sell tickets to this. But Mike had put all 48 touchdown passes on there, set to John Cougar Mellencamp's Small Town.
Oh, wow.
It really won him over. And I had no idea. The whole year had gone by, and I had no idea that he had done that.
Yeah, and you know what? That's the personal touch, and it shows a bit of the character, right? And when you're dealing with sports, like, hey, most sports guys are, are characters. Sports girls are characters, and that's, when you're in a team atmosphere, you want to work in a good atmosphere with good people. So they probably said, you know what, we got to hook up with these guys. They look like a lot of fun, and they know what they're doing.
Yeah, well, Herb Reinhardt, you got to give him credit for being a visionary, because he wasn't exactly popular for picking us. They wanted some guy that was going to run the I formation from Georgia or someplace, and he wasn't popular at first for picking us, but he stood by his guns and picked us, and we got it turned around and got them started on their what has now become kind of a yearly hunt for the national championship in Division II.
Yeah, and then probably comparing you guys like Georgia with probably Herschel Walker back then running the football, right?
Oh yeah. In fact, the guy that did my TV show down there in Valdosta, Johnny Lastinger, he was Herschel Walker's quarterback at Georgia.
Oh, wow.
See, they called Valdosta Wintersville. Now it applies to the college and the high school, but in those days it only applied to Valdosta High. That's who they were talking about. So when they said Wintersville, they were talking about the high school, which had won something like 7 national championships. And in fact, my son played quarterback on one of their national championship teams while we were there.
Oh, really?
And so the legend was, when we got to town there in 1992, was that the high school team could beat the college team.
Really?
Yeah, that's what everybody thought. Yeah.
That's like the argument up here. Like, they always say, take the best CFL team and play them against the last place NFL team. And I said, it's apples and oranges. You can't do that.
Yeah, you can't. Well, they wouldn't know what to do without that 12th guy either.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So you're at Valdosta State, and Mike's this in the book, he talks about coaches who about the air raid who put too much in the playbook. We talked about this, and Bill Walsh, I guess one of your mentors or one of the guys you really liked a lot. And I believe in this, what you said in the book too. You go, and he says, in football, in the rule of football there's no rule in football that you have to be symmetrical offense. Just because you run a play to the right doesn't mean you have to run it to the left, right?
And that's a Bill Walsh quote. Yeah.
Yeah. And Raymond Berry caught all his fades to the left side.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Raymond Berry taught us. That's why we became a right-handed team after the second season there. No, the first season after 92. In 93, we became a right-handed team. So we dropped all the plays. We used to have like blue right 95. We have blue left 95. So we run Y cross from both sides. And if you think about that, when you drill it during the week, well, you're going to throw Y cross about total in routes on air, one-on-ones, pass skill, and team, you're going to get about 10 reps of it, So the quarterback's going to maybe throw that route to that Y, say 6 or 7 times depending on the reads. Well, if you're going to run it from both sides, you just cut that in half. So now he's going to throw it to the left 3 times, complete it to the left 3 times, complete it to the right 3 times. So it just made total sense to me. And when we did it, our goal for the quarterback percentage prior to doing this was always to have a 60% passer. And after we did this, our goal became to have a 70% passer, and we've done it countless times. Since.
You said something very interesting there. You said we were a right-handed team. Never heard somebody say that about their offense before.
Well, by that I just mean we always put the tight end to the right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just the split end was always that way. The split end always played on the left. The tight end always played on the right. And then our halfback, our H, and our F, our featured back, and our Z, they were the guys that would move around and flip to either side.
Okay.
But we had 2 receivers that always were right and left-handed, and that we got from Raymond Berry, who caught every one of his Hall of Fame career passes from the left side of Brown right.
Oh, really? Eh?
Yeah.
Wow. All right, Coach. So staying with the Mike Leach tribute here and his memories. Kentucky now. Now we're in Kentucky. This is it. This is, now you're in the SEC. People would call the radio station saying you guys were bringing anything but a bag full of gimmicks. But there was a guy over there. His name was CM Newton, the AD, who got it, he says in the book. And Bear Bryant hired CM right out of Transylvania College in Kentucky, an NAIA school, to be the head coach of the basketball coach at Alabama in 1968. The year I was born. Hey, but CM Newton, what was the relationship with CM Newton?
It was a great one. He was like a second father to me. He was great. And everything Mike said in the book is true. I mean, in fact, I asked Coach Newton that when he interviewed me the first time. I said, "Can you really hire a D2 guy in the SEC?" And he goes, "Well, Bear Bryant hired me from Transylvania to be the head coach at Alabama, and so he goes, if you're the right guy, I reckon I'm going to hire you."
Nice. So he probably related,
great,
right?
Man, he was a visionary. He actually was a basketball coach, but he loved football. And he was a great athlete too. He actually pitched in the Yankee organization for a while.
Oh, wow.
Well, he was a tremendous athlete from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. He played quarterback in high school and was a pitcher on the baseball team. But Adolph Rupp recruited him to play basketball at Kentucky, and so that was his main focus. And he eventually became a basketball coach.
Wow. And CM said that Hal was someone who put the fun back in Kentucky football. The team was 4-7 the year before he got there, ranked 109th on offense. No winning season in 8 years. And then came along yourself and Mike and a guy named Tim Couch. Hey, Tim Couch from he watched your Valdosta tape. He wasn't sure if he was going to go until he watched your Valdosta tape, right?
Yeah, he was going to leave. If they had stayed with the offense they were doing, Tim wasn't fit for that. He wasn't cut out to be an option quarterback, and that's what they were trying to do with him. So he was going to transfer. And Coach Newton, very wisely, after he decided to let the other staff go and pick somebody, he called Tim in and said, "Look, just be a little bit patient with me. I'm going to get you a guy that I think you'll really like." And at that point, he'd already interviewed me the first time, and he pretty much knew he was going to hire me. There was a lot of other people in the running for the job, but after I got it, Rick Pitino, the great basketball coach there, he came in my office after I got the job, and he said, "I was on the selection committee, but I never went to the meetings because after the first one, I already knew he was going to hire you."
Nice. Hey, that's awesome. Hey, it makes you feel good.
He hired me because Tim was an icon. He just got put in the College Hall of Fame this week.
Yeah.
And very deservingly. So
yeah, I got stuff on Tim.
He was already there. He was already on campus. So, but we knew about him because the year before at Valdosta, when Tim was a junior in high school, he getting ready to be a senior. He was this Gatorade Player of the Year in the nation, and there was a big article in Sports Illustrated about him. So Coach Leach came in my office And he goes, we need to offer this guy and get him down here and tell him if he comes to Valdosta State, he'll get to throw 60 passes a game, and he can't do that anyplace else. And I looked at it, and we weren't getting Tim Couch to come to Valdosta. I mean, this guy had offers from every Power 5 school in America. And I said, well, yeah, that's a good idea, Mike. Get after it. Go get him. So we already knew about Tim when Coach Newton came to interview me. I had a working knowledge of Tim, and he asked me. He said, we got 2 quarterbacks. We got an option guy from Western Kentucky, which we already knew about him too, because we had recruited on him when he was a young guy when we were at Iowa Wesleyan. And then we've got Tim Couch, who's from Eastern Kentucky. So we kind of got this argument going on about who's going to be the best. And I said, well, are they both good kids? I mean, do they take care of business? And they go, oh yeah, they go to class and they take care of business. They don't get in trouble. And I said, well, if that's the case, then Tim's going to be the quarterback, and we're going to move the other one to slot receiver. He'll make a great slot receiver. And I wish we could have. It didn't work out because Billy Jack left. He transferred to Rhode Island after I made Tim the starter.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the rest is history. And looking at your first game at Kentucky, Tim Couch threw 3 first-quarter touchdowns, I believe. He set a passing record of 398 yards. And then, later on, you went on to beat Alabama 40-34 in overtime. But it's the game at LSU that made me laugh. And anybody who knows college football knows the atmosphere and what was it called? Death Valley, they call it.
Oh, yeah.
And in the book, Mike says they called you guys Tiger Bait. And then he goes, and then you got a warm welcome from a big fat hairy guy with his shirt off, his gut hanging out, went to Hal's window, flipped him off with 2 hands. F you, Hal Mumme, F Kentucky. And then you guys went on to win 39-36. And this is the one thing that really got me. Tim Couch threw for close 400 yards, but he ran for 200. Is that true?
No, he didn't run for 200. Our team ran for 200.
Oh, okay, the team, yeah.
No, Tim probably ran for about 2.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was going to say. I didn't remember Tim Couch being a runner. But yeah, the team ran for 200. Yeah, so 600 yards in offense. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. Yeah, but just closing on the Mike Leach tribute here, Coach. It's when I think of the air raid guys, like I always think of you, Mike Leach. I think of Dana Holgerson. I think there was Neil Brown.
Yeah, and had a great year this past year.
Yeah, and there was also the head coach, he was at Arizona, also at Texas Tech there, Kingsbury.
Yeah, Cliff. Yeah.
Cliff Kingsbury. Yeah. So every time I think of those guys, and I always remember going to a conference in Toronto, and I have a good friend of mine in Sault Ste. Marie. He's Tom Anna. He's a good football coach at a high school, Cora High School up in Sault Ste. Marie, and we used to exchange videos on CDs. And I'd say, hey, did you get the latest air raid CD? Did you get the latest this? And I go, if you got a Dana Holgerson, I'll get you. I just got Hal Mumme stuff. And we would just send each other. And this is where I learned from Dana Holgerson the term rat killer. Hey, I learned the term rat killer on the tailback screen. Hey?
Oh yeah. Dana's a brilliant coach, and I'm sure he'll land somewhere pretty soon. But he had a great run at West Virginia, and he's had a good run at Houston. I
thought he was going to lose his hair at West Virginia.
Dana he was one of Dustin DeWall's main targets at Iowa Wesleyan. He played wide receiver for us. And then after he graduated, he came down to Valdosta and GA'd for us for a year. And then we made him a full-time coach. And then he got a chance to go he went to Mississippi College and then to Wingate to be the offensive coordinator. So at a very young age, he was calling plays and running things. And then when Mike got the job at Texas Tech, he hired him, and him and Sonny Dykes. And
Sonny Dykes.
They had Lincoln Riley as one of their backup quarterbacks.
Wow.
Him a student coach. Bill Biedenbaugh, the great O-line coach at OU, was our starting center at Iowa Wesleyan.
Wow.
There's just there's a plethora of guys that have never been head coaches, but they're great coaches. Like Matt Moore is the line coach at West Virginia. He was team captain at Valdosta State for us. Gary Goff was also a team captain. He's the head coach at McNeese. My son Matt played for us at Valdosta and Kentucky, and is now the Colorado State offensive
Yeah.
coordinator.
And he was at Nevada last year, I think, or year before.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And then they had they're just Chad Scott, the running back coach at West Virginia, played running back for us at Kentucky. There's just a ton of them that everybody that played in this offense that wants to coach wants to run it because it's so much fun to coach and to play.
Oh, absolutely. Now going to talking about Tim Couch and his legacy, like you just mentioned, he's going into the class of 2024 College Football Hall of Fame. And, looking at Tim Couch's passing yards at the Kentucky, 8,435 yards passing, 74 touchdown passes. Couch set numerous single season passing records at Kentucky. All-American, won the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm in 1998. Cleveland Browns draft pick. Was selected first overall. NFL career, threw for 11,131 yards, 64 touchdown passes in the NFL. Man, what a great career Tim Couch has, and you had the honor of coaching him. What was it like coaching him?
Well, Tim was easy to coach because he loved the game so much, and like all of our quarterbacks have been, the reason they're great is not necessarily their arm strength or, like you mentioned, are their dimensions. It's what they have in the heart and what they have in the mind, and you just combine that with somebody who's got a quick release, and you're usually going to have a pretty good winner right there. But that's why Tim was. You couldn't outwork Tim Couch. Tim was. I remember going to the jog during the summer at the workout facility in June or July at Kentucky, and Tim would be out there with a bag of balls and a trash can barrel, making passes into it just all by himself. If he couldn't find somebody to throw to, he's just going to go do it himself.
Was he a gym rat? Like, was he just always in the gym or always throwing or?
Always throwing. I think he grew up kind of a gym rat. His dad was a superintendent of schools. And so I think he and his older brother was a good quarterback as well at Eastern Kentucky. And now they're in business together. They're great businessmen in Lexington.
Nice. And, this is one thing we talked the other night with Coach Breezy. High school quarterbacks making that transition to here in Canada, we have what's called a cégep. It's like our junior college. And then we have also the university. And it's such a huge step that a lot of players don't really understand what it takes to be a university quarterback and how much dedication. And also you're a student athlete. And there's so much going on that you got to juggle a lot of that. And it's just what's if you had to think of a couple of words to describe a college quarterback, I always say they got to be tough, they got to be smart. Like one of my things that I in Capital QBs, I have a philosophy called LEAD. It's about leadership, extend the play, athleticism, and decision making. And what do what would you think about those four skill sets?
Pretty good skills, pretty good descriptions of what they have to be. Yeah, sure.
And when you're at Kentucky, when you're looking at quarterbacks, you must have gotten like a lot of game film to review. What do you look for when you did get those game films from high school quarterbacks?
Well, I'm just blessed with the ability to see the ball come off of a player's hand, the way it comes off his hand, the way he rotates it. So that's always helped me pick them out. We want a quick release. They don't necessarily have to have an overly strong arm, but mainly you want the intangibles. Are they good leaders? Are they good people? That's first. If they're not that, then we just pass on them.
Yeah.
No matter what they look like physically. And then great pocket feet and great vision. And that's where now it's real popular to have 7-on-7 tournaments and that sort of thing. But in those days it wasn't. We kind of started that at Kentucky. We started having these huge, big 7-on-7 tournaments that high schools in the area would come to. And we saw hundreds of quarterbacks through those things over that period we were there. And now they're everywhere. You can pretty much go to one every weekend if you want to. And I think that's a great place to see if a guy has a good release and has vision.
To me, when I look at quarterbacks, and I coach a high school here in Ottawa and also a provincial team, and you ever get into like a team session and you're standing behind the offense, and the quarterback, like, the play is done and you see something, he sees something totally different, and you're like, wow, I didn't even see that. Like, how many times have you gone through that and and then you say to yourself, man, this kid, that's one hell of a play he just made there. I had no clue that was open.
I'll tell you, I'm going to plug our VAR system right now. Because AJ Smith, my business partner, he came up with this virtual reality trainer, and it is a fantastic device that really allows players to relive the moment they had in practice in Pascal or team, and they put on those goggles and they see exactly what they saw on the field, which you can't do that from regular film. And
No.
Mike Leach used it. AJ is using it in the XFL, and it's in probably 25 or 30 colleges now and a whole bunch of high schools. But AJ came up with that, and it's a great device to do exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and what's it called?
It's called all caps VAR, virtual augmented reality.
Okay.
And it's VAR LLC. You can look it up. We got a website. It'll explain the whole thing.
I'll get it off you. I might even get it for our guys.
Yeah, it's a pretty low cost. It's less than $6,000 to do it, and it comes with a 360 camera. And what you do is you have your backup quarterback or the guy that's not going hold the camera above the quarterback's head in Pascal or in team, and it films everything, a whole globe, 360.
Oh wow!
I mean, you can put the goggles on and see what the players standing behind team were doing. I mean,
that's where we're at now, eh?
Yeah.
Hey, that's where we're at now.
Yeah, but it's a great device, and then after practice, you can go in, put them on, kind of relive exactly what you saw on the field. And for the backup players that don't get as many reps, it's really great for them because they can get all those visual reps by just putting on the goggles and seeing what the starter saw as he threw the ball.
Yeah, and that's another big thing too. When you're in team practice, and sometimes the backups, because they're not getting reps. We always say, take mental reps, right? Don't be there talking to guys, and to just stay focused. And that's another thing about being a complete quarterback is sometimes when you're a backup, and some of these guys aren't used to that role, right? They're probably the guy in high school, and they get to, and then they get there, and they're just, they feel from an alpha point of view that they're not the guy anymore, right? So it's one thing, and you said it best, character. And if you're not the guy, how are you going to support your teammates?
Yeah, that's something that's hard. Quarterback's the unique position because usually only one guy can play, and the others have to get their reps some way. That's where VAR really helps you. But my son went through that. He was a backup to 3 All-Americans in college, so he gets it a whole bunch after coming out and winning a national championship in high school, and then having to be the backup for three different All-Americans. It was kind of a tough deal, but he was a good example of how you got to stay focused and
be a good teammate.
Yeah,
and be a great teammate. You know what I mean? Like it's all about the team, right?
Yeah,
all right, Coach.
I think it's helped him in coaching right now. It really has.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, some of the greatest backup quarterbacks are great coaches.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, so looking at the air raid offense, the development of the air raid. So looking for some insight on how it impacted the modern football today. Like, what do you think the development today of the air raid offense? You know what? I always think of you when I listen to games and they talk about the air raid, and I go, man, if Coach Mumme had a nickel every time he hears the word air raid, hey, it's just,
that'd be awesome. Try to work that out.
Yeah. Okay, that's probably one thing you guys probably wish you did in the '90s is trademark that thing, eh?
Yeah. Well, it's a pretty generic term. I'm not sure we could have, but I'm proud that everybody liked it. It's popular and a lot of people like it. But when we first started it, and I went to Copperas Cove High School in 1986, and the 4 best athletes in school didn't play football. And so I called them in and I asked them why. And they said, well, because football's not any fun. So then I showed them some film of BYU and June Jones and Mouse Davis's Houston Gamblers. And I said, this is what our offense is going to look like here, and I promise you it'll be fun. And I knew one of them had a really good arm. And I said, you can be the quarterback, and you three guys will be receivers, and I'll still let you play all the other sports. And so they agreed to do it. Well, when I left there 3 years later, they were all sophomores to be at the time. When I left there 3 years later, they were the all-district quarterback, 2 all-district receivers, and 1 all-state receiver. So,
and what is it with the air raid that really helps develop the quarterbacks?
it's just about reps, and we get more reps than everybody else, and we've studied on how to do that. And just like we were talking about a while ago, where we stopped flipping the formations, so our guys now they're going to throw Y cross coming from the right to the left, and they get 10 reps a week in practice on it. Instead of splitting that in half, getting 5 each way, you got 10 just going one way. So you're going to get a lot better at it. You can take that with every route, do the numbers, and look at your practice, how many times you throw each thing. And if you're only doing it one way, then you're going to get a lot more reps and you're going to be better at it.
Yeah. You know what? Drew Brees was on a podcast about a month ago, and he said something that now I just repeat it like gospel. And he said, you know what, when you look at, he goes, the radio announcer asked him, if you had one thing to say to general managers in the NFL, he said, what would you say to him? And he goes, you know what? He goes, take a quarterback that has seen things. He goes, I'll give you an example. He goes, I think Anthony Richardson was at Florida. He goes, he played 10 games at Florida, and he was at Indianapolis. He goes, and then you look at a Brock Purdy, who was at Iowa State, who played 53 games. He goes, Brock Purdy has seen a lot of stuff. And that's what you want. And you said it, reps. And that's the key. You got to be able to take a lot of reps and see things as a quarterback, right?
Well, I'm glad you brought up Anthony Richardson, because he got hurt and was, as a starter for the Colts, I think was maybe break even 2-2 or something like that. And then he gets replaced by Gardner Minshew, who was an air raid quarterback in high school. And then after transferring around several places, was an air raid quarterback in junior college. And then after transferring, he ends up with my friend Mike Leach at Washington State, and becomes a national phenom there. And then, he goes and gets in the NFL. He came to my office in 2018. And he said, I want your advice, because I knew his family. I knew him and his family. I tried to recruit him out of high school. And he said, I'm going to leave East Carolina and probably go to Alabama, and they're going to let me be the third team quarterback, and I can be a GA after I graduate, because I want to coach. He only had 1 year left.
Right.
And Mike had called me a few weeks before and said he'd be looking for a transfer quarterback for him, because he had tragically lost his to a young man had passed away.
Oh, wow.
And I said, well, that sounds like a good plan, Gardner, but wouldn't you rather be a starter, like for the air raid in Washington State? He goes, well, you think that could happen? I go, yeah, I know it could, because I know you can do it, and I know Mike will love you. And so we hooked him up, and he ended up going up there and having a great senior season, and then of course getting a chance to play in the NFL.
Wow.
But again, it's all about, you watch him play, it's all about the reps that he got in high school and college and all that. So Drew's exactly right about all that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Coach. Adapting, implementing the air raid. When you went to some teams, did you have to tinker with the air raid on certain aspects of, obviously, what you got to work what you got, right?
Well, it's a pretty flexible offense, and every team you're going to have guys that do one thing better than another. So we just teach it the way we always teach it, and then we figure out what the skill set is of those skill guys, and so we tend to feature certain routes more than others depending on what their skill sets are. But
Okay.
it never really changes. It really hadn't changed since about 1990, 92, 91 or 92.
In the air raid, obviously, this, you're gonna like this. So I think it was 2010. I was looking on the internet for air raid playbooks, and I came across this one guy selling, I don't know if it's yours. It's called Top Secret Air Raid Offensive Playbook. And when I opened it up, it was a company out of Dova Designs. I don't know if you know that. Yeah. Anyway,
We never had a playbook, Ron.
oh no. Oh, you can't.
Anything that says they've got an air raid playbook is lying to you.
Okay, so it was all these play and all these, everything was in there, the mesh, the white cross, and obviously to me the staple of the air raid offense, and I'm sure you probably agree. For you, what is it? I think it's the mesh.
Well, it's 4 verticals and mesh. It's kind of, Leach's favorite was 4 verticals. Mine was mesh. So we would have that argument which was 1 or which was 2 all the time. But you got to have those 2.
Yeah,
And then Y cross, Y sail after that.
I'm gonna share with you right now. I don't know if you can see this.
But you need to get your money back. You need to get your money back from that guy.
Yeah, because it's not. I don't know if you can see this right now, but I'm sharing the.
Let me turn.
I'm sharing the the mesh right here on the live stream here. I don't know if you can see this. Can you see this?
Yeah, I think I can.
Okay, so it's the mesh, and I'm just hoping the people watching online can see this. So you can see this, the mesh right here.
No, I can't see that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I thought I was gonna be able to, but I can't.
Okay, let me see if I share this. Okay, maybe. Yeah, maybe not. That's too bad. Because what it is, it's basically the outside receivers running go routes, the 2 inside the slots running the over unders, and then the 14-yard dig by the slot back. But that's the Canadian game where we got that extra player. And what I did with the extra players, I made the 2 outside guys run the fades to clear out just in case.
Right.
And I learned the hard way. I learned it the hard way because if you're gonna throw the dump to the 2 crossers, you can't have your outside guys just running like stops or slants, because now their guys who are covering them, they could have their eyes inside and they can see the crossers and they can go get us. So I said, big mistake. You got to get your outside release from your outside guys, clear the alleys, and this way you can get the if you do throw those crossers, you can get it to them. Is that how you teach it?
Well, pretty close. Obviously, we play with 11, not 12. So, but we always want to have at least one guy it's usually a deep route. If it's not a deep route, it's going to be a outside breaking route. And then that's going to be the first read. And then we would have our backs in the flats, and that would be the second read. And then the mesh was always the third read. And we'd step up in the pocket. If we have to step up in the pocket, that's when you find the mesh. But the key to the mesh deal is you got to teach man or zone. And so if it's man to man, they're going to end up running and climbing. If it's zone, they're going to sit in the biggest area they can find after they mesh. And so that way, the defense can never really cover them because they're reading what the defense is doing to them.
Yeah.
The only way to cover them is to tackle them, which they usually get flagged for.
and it wasn't it that I read somewhere where you ran like mesh like 10 times in a row in some games?
We ran. Well, the most famous one was when at Iowa Wesleyan, we had a game where we threw it. We were 61 of 86 for the game, and for over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, and we called mesh 52 times.
That's a lot. And here's the other thing too. Like, and I got this from you with the settle noose drill in practice. Because something, the one thing I do when I'm in season, like training camp, or I mean the off season, I train fundamentals, but once you're in season, you got no time for that. And and what I love to do is the settle noose drill. And is that one of your favorite drills for the air raid concepts?
That's our warm-up drill. We do that before practice starts. As guys come out of the locker room, they just go straight to those barrels, and the quarterbacks go and they drop on the line. So we get a lot done in that drill. We get snaps with the centers. We get quarterback fundamentals dropping on the lines, and then we get the receiver fundamentals of settling and having the quarterback place the ball away from the defender, and then they tuck it and turn straight up the field. And we get a lot done coaching that drill. And our receiver coach, our quarterback coach, and our running back coach, everybody's involved in that drill. But it's a really slow quarter speed, get warm kind of thing, because we've never believed in having a big team stretching period. We don't do that. No. And so this is while they're doing that, our offensive linemen are down jumping rope doing some warm up type drills for them. So everything we do on the field is something they're going to do in the game. And I always hated those 15-minute stretching periods where the weight coach tells them to get the ropes and pull their hamstrings back
Yeah.
and screams at them. And then invariably after you stretch, somebody pulls a muscle in the first drill. So I always thought that was a waste of time. So we got rid of it.
I remember I was, I don't know if you know the FBU guys in San Antonio. Yeah. So one year with Team Canada, when I was a quarterback coach for one of the teams, and I ran into an offensive line coach for the American team. And he knew I was from Canada. He goes, "You know what I do with my offensive line?" I go, "What's that?" He goes, "I take them ice skating." I go, "What?" I go, "Ice skating." And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "The best drill for offensive line to work their hips."
Yeah, that's a really good idea. We used to teach them. We did boxing drills is what we did. Same idea though.
Yeah, same. All right. Closing out here, Coach. Memorable game strategy. Is there a particular game or play from your coaching career with the air raid offense was executed to perfection? And you know that one game where everything works so well, and you said, "Man, this is one of those games you probably want to light up a cigar," and said, "Man, the air raid bailed me out today."
Well, there's two of them, and they're really comparable because it was two different teams, but the same idea. Our first year at Kentucky, we played LSU at home, and they had three great running backs, and they beat us 63-28. And the only reason it wasn't 100 is because the backs got tired of running. It was kind of a sloppy, rainy field. And then the next year, the same players, 1 year later, after we, done all of our off season and all of our training and all that, we go down to Baton Rouge and we won that game you were talking about, 39-38 on the last play of the game. Drove it about 60 yards and kicked a field goal with 2 seconds on the clock.
Wow.
And then a few years later, I was at Southeast Louisiana, and we had almost exactly the same score. McNeese University was a great FCS program at that point. And we played them only because they kind of forced me to play them because we were going to be in the league with them. But we had a brand new program. We had all freshmen and a few transfers, I had a freshman center and a freshman quarterback. I was just happy to get the snap most of the time.
God.
But we played. McNeese has great stable of running backs. They come in, same deal. It's like 66-28 or something. But in both of those games, in the fourth quarter, our quarterback and our receivers, we scored a couple of times in the fourth quarter. And those guys, all of a sudden, the light went on. And this is how we beat this team.
Wow.
And in most cases, the next year, we won the game. In fact, the game that you're asking about where everything went perfect was Southeastern versus McNeese in 2004. We go to Lake Charles, 20,000 people in the stands, which is a sellout, and great atmosphere, great deal. And they're pretty sure they're going to kick our ass pretty good, like they did the year before.
Yeah.
And it was R.C. Slocum night too. They were honoring R.C. Slocum, who's an alum there. And it was on regional TV. The number 2 team in the nation against these upstart new 1-year-old program. And we beat them 52-17.
Wow.
Martin Hankins threw for 526 yards. And Felton Huggins, who's now the head coach at Kentucky State, was our star receiver. And he had a night, he just put on a clinic on him. And yeah, it was almost a perfect night. It really was.
Did you feel bad that you ruined R.C. Slocum night, or?
Actually, R.C. and I laugh about that quite a bit. He came up to you a few years later and he goes, I'd always heard about air raid. I didn't really understand what it was like. He said, until that night at McNeese. And he said, my God, that was a clinic.
Yeah. Oh, I love those games, right? You ever have those? You ever coach those games and the play goes? You go, you know what? That's a clinic film. I'm bringing that to the clinic film.
Oh yeah, you could that one. You could take the whole film. It was a clinic film.
That's awesome. All right, Coach. Hey, you know what? I know it's been a while since we've talked, and it's just like I said, I feel like a stalker sometimes when Yeah, because I'm such a fan of you. Where are you there? Oh, I think I lost you. Oh crap. All right, guys, I want to thank everybody for watching today's show, and we'll try to get Coach Al Mumme back on here before he goes. But let me see. Looks like maybe his phone died or something. I know we just lost Hal Mumme here. But again, I want to thank Coach Hal Mumme for being on the show here today. And I'm just gonna wait a couple minutes just to see if he comes back on here. Yeah, that was weird. It just disconnected, and hopefully we can get Coach back on here for a second. So I'm just gonna wait 1 minute here. Well, I don't know. I think we lost Coach Al Mumme here. Hey, maybe his battery died or something on his phone. But you know what? That was awesome. All right, guys. Again, thanks for everybody for watching today's pre-snap read podcast with Coach Al Mumme. And some great stories, some great information for quarterbacks who wanted to get a little bit of knowledge of what it takes to play at the next level. And that was awesome. All right. So again, thank you to Coach Al Mumme, and hopefully you guys enjoyed that, and we'll be back next week. February 8th is the next one we're going to do. We've got a great guest here, a high school coach here in Ontario, Huron Heights. Heath Weir is going to be on the show. And I told him when I texted Coach Weir, I said, congratulations on your 50th OFSA win, because it just seems like all they do is win OFSA over there. And we'll get a little bit of insight into Coach Weir's program at Huron Heights, and how the quarterback, a quarterback, how do they adjust their quarterback system or quarterback play for the quarterbacks? Hey, if you're a quarterback and you're in a triple option system, that's not like the air raid, that's for sure. So again, thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll be back shortly with another edition of the Pre-Snap Read, the podcast. Thank you.